Welcome to another vintage fishing reel service video. In this episode we have a rather uncommon one. This one is a Bronson model 880. And this one, Bronson introduced this one in 1966. And it continued until 1970. Although Bronson was bought out by True Temper in the late 60s, and so the latest versions of this, maybe 68, 69, 70, somewhere in that area, were under the True Temper name. But the model itself ran from 66 to 70. And apparently only came, well, for the most part, only came in the black color, although looking online on, I think it's the Orca website, someone actually has a blue one of the 880 that's under the Bronson name. But most of them are black, but you just don't see this model very often, and I feel very fortunate to have come across this one. This one looks like it had one of those label tape machine labels on it, something Beimers or Reimers, something L. Beimers. So somebody had that reel and had their name on there on a label. But this was marketed as a heavy-duty reel for both fresh and salt water. And I don't know that it was ever used in salt water, although it does have a little corrosion on the chrome on the handle there. But I haven't been into this yet, and so we'll get in there. And I don't have a schematic for this, so hopefully it's put together the way it's supposed to be. And if not, I'll have to try to figure it out. But we're going to take this apart and service it and get this one back into action. So I'm going to start off by removing the cover, which is just a slight counterclockwise turn. And then that pulls off. And the thing here is, make sure the drag parts are in the correct order. And if somebody's been monkeying with it and has them out of order, it can be kind of fun to figure out the way they go back if you don't have a schematic. So, not terribly dirty inside. I mean, it's been used. You can see some lake slime in there, but not too bad. Go ahead and put the cover in the parts tray. This is one of the ones where to get into the workings, you have to take off the button, and the button's held on by a pin here. And so we'll see if we can hopefully easily push that pin out. Pin and your push button. Boy, it almost looks like it has a little bit of salt in there. You wonder if that was used. You see that kind of looks like almost like a salty precipitate, but I ain't licking it to find out. I don't care that much. Nice big brass gear in there. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and take off the drag knob, see what's going on here. Hopefully nobody's ever had this part before. So there's your drag knob and a drag washer, or or whatever, and then and then your spinner head. Okay, so I'm going to kind of lay those in order. And then you have this thing here, which consists of a metal drag washer, some kind of a rubberized, fibrous maybe washer, and then this little bell thingy here. So I'm going to lay those out. And then you've got this piece here. Okay. The line on this looks like a newer line, just based on the color and so on. But I'm guessing that this is a built-in spool, so the spool doesn't come off. But I'm going to go ahead and get that nasty line off of there right now. There. That line almost has like a spider wire consistency to it. Definitely a colored line, but just has kind of a feel of spider wire type stuff, which I would hesitate to use on these old Spincast reels. But anyway, I'll get that melded down and into the receptacle, so melding, so we don't end up having a bunch of birds trapped in this kind of thing in the landfill. All right. Again, I started to see, like a white powder. I'm thinking this may have been in salt water. It's just all over in here. So I think we can go ahead and pull out the pinion gear and axle shaft. Looks like there is a washer in there, so be careful of that when you're pulling it apart. Put that in the parts tray. And then I think all that's really left to do is remove the handle and take out the main gear and the anti-reverse mechanism. So that's just removing a screw here. And taking the handle off. And then just keep an eye on how that anti-reverse pawl is in there. So that comes out like that. And then you've got this tensioner spring and then your anti-reverse. And that looks like the punch out in your anti-reverse. The concave side faces away from the interior of the reel, and the punched out or convex side is facing towards the main gear. So pull those things out, and woo, boy oh boy, I don't know what was going on there, if somebody tried to force it, but I don't know if you can see, but the cogs on the anti-reverse gear there's a chunk of metal right there. I don't know what happened there, but somebody's really boogered up those cogs, or at least 1, 2, 3, 4, about half of the cogs are boogered up on that for that anti-reverse. The main gear teeth all look good. That's a big old, what looks like brass gear. And so what you're left with, let's see, looks like there's another item inside here. Yeah. Okay, that keys into the main gear shaft. So that's a two-part main gear shaft, and this outer one keys in. Basically, the reason they did that was to shorten the shaft so that you can get the main gear out through the body. So, and then you're just left with the housing. Nothing more to it. So I'm going to get these parts into the parts tray and get those over to the sink, where I'm going to take and put those under some warm water with some Dawn dish soap and a toothbrush, some WD-40 where needed, making sure to get a cotton swab through the various journals and things and get that all cleaned up. And I'll be back just like that. All right, let's get these all spread around here. All the parts out so you can see hopefully all the individual parts. And we'll start off by reassembling the main housing here. So we've got the main gear, and then we remember that this little punch, the convex side faces the main gear, and okay, it goes in there like that. And then we've got this little spring that goes over there. I'm going to just pull that out a little bit, and then I guess we can put a little bit of oil. We could actually grease these cogs a little bit if we wanted. Sometimes that quiets down the anti-reverse a smidge. And then we can probably be best just to go ahead and oil the inside of this housing here, this journal. And then slip this into place there. I think this rounded part of the anti-reverse with the punch faces down when you put it in there. Yeah, and then the one end of it. Okay, so this narrowest end of the thing there, right there, that catches on this piece of plastic right in there. So if it's in right, you'll know right away, because if you try to turn the main gear backwards, it won't. So it's not terribly hard to get in there properly. And then we've got, and I'm just going to throw a little oil on it just in case. We've got our second piece of the main gear shaft that links up, keys into the rest of it. And at that point, I think we're already ready to put the handle back on. And that's just a matter of screwing in this bolt. We can tighten it down more later, but tighten it a bit now. And that's moving nice and smoothly. While I'm here and thinking about it and not forgetting about it, I'm going to put a little oil into the handle knob. Work that in through there. That's clear oil going in, but when it comes down here, it's black, and that's just because it's washing all that gunk out of there. So we got that freed up nicely, and then we can take our pinion gear and shaft and put it back in. And I thought I'd seen broken teeth on this, but no, I'm not. It must have just been a figment of the lighting and wear. It looks pretty good. So one thing I like to do is, I mean, you can oil it up here and then work it back in, but I like to just push that up, put some oil there, and work it in that way. And you've got, of course, this washer that fits down in there. So, and you may not be able, yeah, you're going to have to kind of get the washer in first, because otherwise it's not going to get past the teeth on your main gear. So slink that down in there, and then you should be able to slide your axle shaft or your pinion gear shaft in there. And I'm gonna, before I do that, I'm gonna grease that up good, and then might as well go ahead and grease up the main gear teeth. And then we can slip this down in there. Oop, dummy. Goes in like that. Oh, bet you I forgot to oil that shaft. Yeah, there. Gotta oil that. And then put it in. That's nice and smooth now. All right, so now to reassemble the, guess there's no reason why I can't go ahead and just to keep everything in place, go ahead and put this button back on. Grease there where it engages that toggle, and sneak that into place. And then we've got a pin here that we have to push back into place. Okay, that'll keep that thing from slipping out of there. Now we just reversed the order of the way we found things. So this went on first, and it's D-shaped hole, and the shaft is D-shaped, and so just line that up. And then you've got this cap here, also keyed. Okay, and then you've got, these feel rubbery, but it looks like there's like cork-like particles in there. I don't know what they're made of. And then you've got this metal washer that goes on top. The other thing that seems odd to me is, wouldn't you want your fiber drag washer up against the spinner head? And here's the question as to whether or not somebody even had this put together correctly. You know, I might be inclined to put this metal drag washer there, and then have your fiber washer here, and then that would be up against the spinner head because you've got another fiber washer on that side of it. But the way I found it was the metal washer was contacting the spinner head, which just seems counterintuitive to me. So I'm going to do it like this. I'm going to put that little bell cap on, then I'm putting my metal drag washer on with the tabs facing up to help grip or engage this drag washer, this fiber washer. And then I'm going to put on that, and then I'm going to put on this final drag washer, and then the drag and adjustment knob. That seems most logical to me, that you would have your fiber washers on either side contacting the spinner head. So I'm going to loosen this up a bit, and I could be wrong. So seems like I've been here before. I've had this quandary before, but when I engage the drag there, it wants to tighten it wants to automatically tighten. Yeah, it still wants to tighten on it. If I hold the spinner head and then try to wind, it's wanting to tighten the thing down. Okay, so whoever had this apart before I got it had the drag assembly, the drag stack put together incorrectly. the way it's supposed to happen is of course you got your little brass piece and then this bell. Then where they had gone wrong is they had they had, of course this was correct, but then they had this metal drag washer on there, and right next, and one indication that's probably not where it goes is because why else would they have these tabs? Maybe, I've just never seen tabs like that used to like engage a, or to add more friction or something to the fiber washer. If you start thinking about it, those tabs look an awful lot like the grooves in the drag adjustment knob. So that's going to go outside of the spinner head. Of course it made more sense to me to have the fiber washers on either side of the bell housing, which is the way most things are. So those do go in fact there. You can see a shadow of the incorrect assembly in that you've got the shadow of this drag adjustment down there, but you wouldn't see that if it had been put on correctly, because this metal washer goes there, keys in there with the punches with concave side up, so that it basically is kind of like engages this drag knob. I don't know that it's really a drag clicker, but it helps with the adjustment of the drag knob. Now when I hold the spinner head and turn it, it doesn't cause the drag to tighten. It stays right where you set the drag. And of course, if I tighten this down more, now it's much harder to turn, but still maintaining itself right where I put it. Now I can barely turn it at all. So whoever put it together just made a miscalculation. They had that metal washer on the inside of the spinner head when it should have been the last thing to go on before the drag adjustment knob. Basically the same as the 804 in the way it's set up, and probably a lot of other Bronsons if I recall correctly. So that's how the drag stack works, as correctly placed on this one. So I think that's everything, such that we can put the cap back on, and this cleaned up really nicely. I mean, there's one bad scratch there, but as you can see right there, but overall that thing's, look how nice that button cleaned up. It's almost returned to its ivory color instead of yellow. But overall, look at that. Works like brand new. What an awesome reel. That'll make a nice addition to my Bronson collection. One of these days I'll have to do a video where I just show my Bronson collection, maybe sometime before Christmas, because with the beautiful anodized aluminum multiple color selections that you had with these reels, they look like ornaments you could hang on the Christmas tree. But I love my Bronsons. Neat reel to collect. But there you have the Bronson Model 880, made between 1966 and 1970. Hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for watching.